thoughts generally, before we get into the detail, on that speech?
Well, it was very much President Trump, wasn't it? A little bit rambling, a little bit ad hoc, off the cuff, recognizing people in the audience, joking with Israeli Prime Minister, but then getting to the point, which is today is a very good day in a part of the world that hasn't had that many of them recently.
That section that we played there, just a small part of a long speech, he had been speaking beforehand about the attacks on Iran's nuclear installations and the attacks on Hezbollah before that, and his work, or the work that's going on to disarm Hezbollah in Lebanon and create more peaceful relationships between Lebanon and Israel. And he talked there about the terror elements being smashed. Have they been? Because they hover over this peace plan still, don't they? Certainly Hamas does.
Sure. Well, if you look at the record over the last year or so, what Israel has done in terms of defeating groups that are categorized by all Europeans as well as the United States as terrorist groups, Hamas, Hezbollah, the Assad regime in Syria, and of course the mullahs in Iran. Israel has degraded them significantly, and I think that's part of what's led to today. There's been an opening for the type of process that the President of the United States jumped into, and I think that the context in the region is much more conducive for a broader peace today than it has been in recent memory. These groups have not gone away, as we all know, but they're significantly weakened. We need to support the democratic government in Lebanon. We need to support the transitional government in Syria. We need to make sure that the Iranians don't continue to interfere and undermine the region by their support for these groups. But today is a very good day for people who want to see a more peaceful Middle East.
Let's talk through a couple of different countries, because they're all going to be meeting in Sharm el-Sheikh in an hour or so. Egypt, Turkey, Qatar, are they the three key? I suppose Jordan we should throw into the mix as well. Are they the four key countries here when it comes to a kind of spine of economics leading to peace, business leading to peace here?
Well, yes and no. The key one, I think, in the background you didn't mention is Saudi Arabia, which can easily bankroll all these countries, in fact, does subsidize the economies of the others in the region. So getting Saudi Arabia on board, which it's clear that they have been quietly, has been essential. And I think that speaks to the relationship that President Trump had with the Saudi leadership during his first term and that he's built on since he's been president. So all of these countries, I think, played a role. They all put pressure on Hamas. They all explained to the Palestinians as this was an opportunity they didn't want to forego. And it was clear that the hostages were not the leverage that Hamas thought they were going to be. They weren't protecting Gaza from the might of the Israeli military. So giving them up at this point, I think, was a shrewd move on their part. And now we're going to have to wait and see what comes next.
That's interesting you say that, because the assault on Gaza City, which was never finished, I mean, it was started for sure, but it was never finished. Was that Netanyahu's plan there, to say to Hamas, my own people will hate me for this, but I'm not going to treat the hostages as a reason not to go into Gaza City? Well,
I don't think he's ever seen the hostages as an impediment to prosecuting a war of extermination against Hamas.
Which is why they booed him yesterday in Hostage Square.
He's been very clear about that. And I think he felt that if he did not eradicate Hamas this time, that given who they are, their ideology, their inability to compromise at all, that they would be back in 5 or 10 years and Israel would face another security threat. Now, great masses of the Israeli public and the military and the security services opposed that, thought that it was diminishing returns. But Netanyahu, for his own reasons and for this belief, I think, decided to prosecute it until President Trump told him that he had to stop.
Enough, yeah. And that was Qatar, was it? The attack on Qatar, do you think, was the hinge there?
I think that played a role as well. I don't minimize the attack on Iran, which has been the puppet master for a lot of these groups in the region, going against the Israelis for many, many years. So I think it was a combination of things. A lot of people deserve credit here. The Qataris certainly. The Egyptians, I would have liked to have seen them done more in terms of providing care for Palestinians. They didn't take any of the refugees onto their territory for the past 2 years, which I thought was shameful. But at this point now, everybody, including the Europeans, has an opportunity to rebuild Gaza under a new administration with a new security force. And as your commentator said earlier, there really is going to be a very, very difficult challenge now in order to fill the void, fill the vacuum there. If it was rebuilding, Sweden, it'd be difficult, but rebuilding Gaza is difficulty on steroids.
Yes, yeah, you can see. If you've got eyes in your head, you can see that, can't you? Can I ask you about why Trump and not Obama? Why Trump and not Biden? Or even going back as far as Bush, maybe? Because Donald Trump, he didn't mention President Bush, but he certainly mentioned the other two. And he was essentially saying they didn't have it in them. They didn't have it in them, and I do. Any truth in that?
Well, the proof's in the tasting, isn't it? I mean, he has done something unprecedented. And again, to be very clear, he hasn't created peace in our time, although he seems to be saying it's going to last forever. What he's done is he's created an opportunity for all the parties in the region that simply didn't exist a week ago. And it didn't exist a year ago or 5 years ago or 10 years ago. He's created new reality. And now it's up to the other parties to seize this moment. The question for him is, will he be able to continue his attention and the amount of time and effort that he and his team have put into it in order to see this through? And so, yes, I think that he is different than the previous presidents. He had either more confidence, or he was less afraid to fail, or the Israelis, with their attacks on Hamas and Hezbollah and Iran, created new opportunities. All of these can be true, but it's hard to see another American president other than President Trump seizing this moment the way he's done.
And he's clearly turned his back on, President Trump, that is, has turned his back on a kind of traditional approach to diplomacy that we can see. And you'll know better than me what goes on behind closed doors when it comes to diplomacy. But is that part of it, that he's prepared to smash up the room in a way that the others weren't?
Well, I think that's very astute of you to see that. He's not the first president to want to run foreign policy out of the White House rather than the State Department. So his concentrating power in the White House, perhaps to a greater extent than before, but other presidents have done that. Richard Nixon comes to mind right away. George H.W. Bush also. What's different is he in a good sense, he's not bound by traditional diplomatic niceties, to put it bluntly. Just the way he speaks about the world is something that Americans really haven't heard of in the past. And the way he saw this as a negotiation, as a real estate deal, as something that you could get the parties close enough and then he could bang heads to get them to do the deal. He didn't devote himself to the intricacies of this. He had a term sheet like he would when he's closing real estate, where here are 3 or the 4 of the top items.
And that's interesting, that, because I've heard people over the weekend, including just in conversations of my own with other people, saying he's in it to make some money. He's in it so he and Jared Kushner can make some money and their buddies can make money. It's all about them and making money. But you're shaking your head, I think, that. But if he's not doing that, is he saying, listen, lads, there's something in this for all of us if we just stop smashing the place up? So
your take is very charitable. The one you've heard from other people is less so. And my view is,
which is closer to the truth. You don't care,
but I don't care, okay. And I'm not sure that anybody should care. If he makes $1 billion and it brings peace to the Middle East, God bless him. Just think of the amount.
Well, he's got a new jet, hasn't he, from Qatar out of it? Yeah.
He's never going to use that jet. That's another issue. There's no way you can ensure security on that jet unless you take it apart completely and rebuild it.
Fair enough.
So But the point is, yes, he is looking for financial opportunities for him and his family. It's unseemly. Again, it's unprecedented. I wish he didn't do it. But if he can bring peace to the Middle East, just the opportunity close in terms of that alone, the opportunity cost is extraordinary in the many, many billions of dollars. So, I wish he didn't behave this way. But if he can achieve the success, I'll give it to him.
You can be grubby and great at the same time.
It's a complicated world. We all have multitudes, don't we?
We do. We all have multitudes, yeah. And just a final thought on that speech. I was thinking as I was listening to it, that, the praise for Netanyahu, the praise for himself and his team, and taking time to name the individuals in his team that he admired for the work they'd done on this, talking about the weaponry that America gives to Israel. Yeah. Give me this, I need that, I need this, I need that. He was saying they all loved it in the room, obviously, in the Knesset. They all loved that, and I'm sure other people listening would have loved it. But the enemies of Israel, and those all over the world, actually, not just in the Middle East, who say America and Israel have presided over, and the UK, and that they'll blame others, presided over a genocide, they'll use that term, in Gaza, they will have just heard saber-rattling warmongering in that language, won't they? Does that matter? Does that matter?
I think yes and no. I think that wasn't the audience he was addressing. He was addressing that audience in the room and the domestic audience back in the United States. I think that having showing that he is a strong supporter of an American ally should reassure all American allies and friends around the world. And the fact is that the United States and this president was indispensable in reaching this peace agreement, again, sends a message to everybody. You may not like him, you may not like what he says or what he does or how he goes about his business, but the United States is relevant, and he will act if he thinks it's in America's best interest. That should reassure America's friends, and it should worry America's adversaries.